bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what a fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey.
Hey. Hey.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey. How you doing?
It's that
Ross,
time.
I got a turkey on my head.
It's that time of the year.
It's Joey, isn't it?
I'm
You're Joey.
half Joey.
You're
I'm
half
Joe. And then
he's Joe. I'm Jack. This is the first time we've done the introduce. The first time we've done the introduce this way. This is my intro.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Christmas episode of 2MoreTakes, everyone. He's Joe.
That's Jack.
This again, the first time we've ever done this intro this way, but you know what? We're going to roll with it. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Crimbles.
Yeah, I guess then there's no better way to sort of get into it than I guess like, you know what? Why don't we talk about our feelings about the season just before we get into the films today? Because we got some good films today, I think. Yeah,
Well,
how do you feel about Crimbo? I feel good.
Yeah, so, what should we say? We're talking about a few films today. But
yes, we're going back to our old formula.
we've got a couple of secrets up our sleeve for each other, so we don't even know what we're actually going to talk about today as of yet.
Yes.
There's two we've decided on and two that are secret. But we'll see.
We're doing like a 2MoreTakes Secret Santa-esque thing right now.
We'll see how that goes. I don't know how this will play out. We've both basically... We're going to have some controversy nonetheless, but it's going to be an interesting one. But Christmas...
Controversial Christmas, very, very Christmassy.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a good Christmas argument? But yeah, Christmas, it's just festive time.
Yeah, no, it's
I
mean, my personal feelings towards the season, I think, like, I'm quite ambivalent to a lot of seasons. I think Halloween and Christmas are really the only ones that I absolutely adore, really.
I always...
More just in the way that it's a time where you can bring out the best in people, really, so...
Yeah. I mean, Christmas and... I like Halloween, but I've always been... Yeah, Christmas has always been my preferred holiday, probably. Yeah. It's like, people giving me things, but... No, I do...
if you play your cards right, you can get that on Halloween as well.
Yeah, but... No, I do like Christmas. The Christmas vibe... When you actually... Currently, the thing is, it doesn't feel Christmassy yet, and that's always the problem.
Yeah.
It's the build-up is always a bit awkward, but once you actually finally get into the Christmas... Like, next week, Christmas week will be... Or,
Well, no, Joe, what are you talking about? We're recording this on Christmas Day.
Christmas...
this is... Don't date the video.
The Christmas week, though, is... once you get into it, it does... It's usually quite a nice vibe,
Yeah.
I love a good Christmas vibe.
I think music's part of that as well.
Yeah.
It's... I think Christmas music is both, like, the shittest and greatest sort of stuff you'll come across in that... I think that a lot of Christmas songs just fill me with warmth and joy. I think this is quite a nostalgic season for me, which, I mean, obviously for a lot of people, I think there's a lot of people out there who don't feel the same way. And, for instance, off the top of my head, obviously, you could think of a certain Charles Dickens story that, talks about, some people's attitudes towards Christmas and sort of how we should use the season. Star Wars, yeah. Oh, you fucker! Is it? He did it. He did it, guys. The first time, Joe. This entire podcast is right. So far today is you pulling it over on me because you managed to get your introduction like the other way around. You've introduced Star Wars.
Yeah.
Have we had like a Freaky Friday situation right now, and I'm secretly Joe now?
I don't know. I just switched up the soundboard, is all. But yeah, attitudes toward Christmas. There's always a mixed lot.
Yeah.
But
essentially, this is I guess accidentally a long-winded segue into Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol, which is basically the main sort of focus of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, both of our arranged Christmas films are A Christmas Carol, basically.
Yeah.
There's a twist on both of them, though. They're not like generic, normal adaptations.
No, I mean,
I guess we should get right into it then.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing.
Sorry.
we did. Yeah, we'll get into the first one in a sec. But yeah, the only thing is, we did, obviously last year we did a Christmas episode. That was one of our, our first episode that came out?
We did 2, because we had to split it into 2 because for 2 hours we rambled on about 8 movies.
But we did a couple of Christmas episodes off the bat, and we spoke about a bunch of films. But out of all of them, none of them were a Christmas Carol based ones, really, were they? We had, Grinch, Die Hard, Home Alone.
No, I think the closest thing... Yeah, I think Grinch was the closest thing to like a literary connection we had with that.
But there are many a Scrooge film, many a Christmas Carol film we haven't got to yet. But today we've got a couple up our sleeve. Starting with... Yeah, we're not... I mean, there's not really much point in talking about like all of them, because there's a lot... No. I discovered this when I was rewatching the first of these films, because I was searching for it on the service I was using, and and then it came up with like a ton of other Scrooge movies that are all from like several decades, like one in the 50s, one in the 70s, one in the 90s. Yeah. It's like the endlessly remakeable film in a weird way, and I suppose that's just the formula of how the story is. But I mean, I suppose put it this way, in terms of I think these two are the most unique sort of remakes, sort of reboots, adaptations that we've had. I would say that maybe the first one, and the first one we're talking about is, of course, Mr. Richard Donner's and Bill Murray's Scrooged. The 1998... Sorry, not 1998, the 1988 Christmas flick, which is a modern adaptation of A Christmas Carol. It's quite a star-studded affair as well in that film. There were a couple of people
a lot of cast members
in this film that I didn't expect to show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that I don't think either of us... Had you seen Scrooged before?
Oh, I've seen this for years, dude. Endlessly reruns during Christmas. So this is one where I'm very... I've watched this for years growing up. I had not watched it for a fair amount of time since I was like... Maybe it was like 5 years ago that I last watched it properly.
Yeah. No, I hadn't seen Scrooged before, and I saw it was an interesting one. I did enjoy, but I don't know how I feel about it in general.
I do have to say, I think that in terms of like, not sure how I feel about it, I do think I kind of feel that as well. Because I think that the weird part about it is that it came out like 4 years after Ghostbusters, which was obviously the Bill Murray, movie. That's the thing that skyrocketed him from SNL to stardom, basically. And this is one of those films that did come out in that grace period, like Groundhog Day, and that it came out in that period of like Bill Murray at his best before he started sort of becoming in decline in the 90s, and he started to make really crappy movies then. And then it was only when Lost in Translation came out that he started becoming a big star again, basically. His career's been very up and down, and this I think was at the high point. But yeah, it was an interesting rewatch in that I probably laughed a lot more when I was a kid, or like when I was a teenager. I did laugh a lot during it, but it was not nearly as hard as I wanted to. Really, it's a comedy. Obviously, you couldn't. It's a Bill Murray film, so you know what you're getting. And I think just to start off with, he's really good in the role, but it is just A Christmas Carol, but with the modern tinge. And Bill Murray's is Ebenezer Scrooge. Or in this film, he's called
Frank.
I think no, I don't think he's called. He's
What was?
Yes, no, actually, yeah. So he's Francis. Nobody calls him by his, because I think the reason I know his last name. He's Frankie / Francis Cross. Everyone calls him Cross, or the other name which he goes by, which is Lumpy.
Yeah.
which Karen Allen from Indiana Jones
Yeah.
fame is. She's the romantic lead in this, and her nickname for him is Lumpy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to hearing Bill Murray called Lumpy, or maybe Venkman.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the plot is that he's a TV producer. You know, he's like spent the last sort of, I think, like 25 years of his career sort of, working his way up to being like one of the senior sort of producers, like executives in this TV station. He's like the youngest guy to ever achieve that role, but he's in like his 40s or whatever, and he's a miserable git who sort of takes joy in bullying people around his office, and he is Scrooge, but there is a difference, I think, in how most people, when they get the role of Scrooge in other adaptations, play the character. Obviously, Bill Murray has that sort of comedic twinge and sort of like wit to him, and that like it's like when he fires one of the guys in the boardroom at the beginning of the film. And his assistant reminds him it's Christmas, and so he says, "Oh, thank God, cancel his bonus." it's like there's lines like that do stick out to me. But there is a vast majority of jokes that sort of go completely. I don't think they work really anymore, or if they did when they came out, I think it might just depend. But the story is just A Christmas Carol, which is basically your Scrooge character gets contacted by an old business partner who's dead. He comes back to life and sort of warns him. He says, "You're going to be visited by 3 ghosts this evening," and that's the ghost of past, ghost of present, and ghost of future. With the ghost of Christmas, basically. But so he gets visited by all of them, as do any Scrooge sort of archetypes. But it's just with the sort of background of a modern sort of time. It's just A Christmas Carol, but it's with Bill Murray as the main character.
Yeah.
It does have the aesthetic changes to it, but it is the exact same thing. And it's not to say that. Although actually, there is one element to it. So I don't really need to describe much more about the plot, because it's all specifics after that point. That's the generic plot. That's what it is. But I did notice when I was watching it, it's quite meta in a way, obviously, in that the show that they're producing for Christmas is obviously A Christmas Carol adaptation for live on TV. So obviously, that you have that constant sort of reminder when he sort of comes in and out of his experiences with the ghosts. Mm-hmm. It's very much intrinsically linked with the show that they're doing.
Yeah.
He sort of gets like plopped back out. When they're doing takes and sort of the production's going wrong or whatever. But I do think that one interesting aspect that Scrooge brings in terms of the traditional story and framing it differently is the ghost of Christmas past. That cabbie is fantastic. I love him so much.
No, I do.
He's so much better than the original one.
Yeah, I do like. Obviously, it takes twists on almost all of it has some twist to it, but some of it's not as interesting as others. But the cabbie, they've got a bit of like a DeLorean thing going on with it, where they go back in time. But yeah, there's a couple of the cabbie's probably one of the best sort of he's got some character to him, and he's
he's just like absolutely thrilled in like tormenting people, basically, but it's like it's in a humorous way where it's like he's mostly tormenting Bill Murray because he's an asshole, basically. He's not like, he doesn't punch down really on other people.
No.
But yeah, no, he's got like a great aesthetic, like the makeup and like the weird elf ears he has, and then his horrible scuzzy cabbie outfit. I think that if there's one takeaway from the film, it's got to be like him really aesthetically. Just him laughing his ass off at everything. Like he just takes so much joy in tormenting Bill Murray, and it really you could have like just done an entire film of those two interacting, and I think it would have been, obviously it would have been a different kind of formula, but I think it would have been really funny and really, really good.
Yeah, because then after him, it gets a bit awkward with the ghost of present, where she just beats him up weirdly.
Yes, so I think that they handle the Christmas Ghost of Future very well, because there's actually a funny gag in there that was quite. I liked that a bit when he's standing by the elevator and Death comes out, like the guy in the Death suit for the Christmas Future comes out of the elevator, and he's like begging on his knees like to not take him, and all this sort of stuff, and then John Glover's like. He's like, oh no, that's just the guy from the costume. Why are you doing scaring Bill Murray? And he sends him off. And the face on Bill Murray, that is one of my favorite things about this film, is that Bill Murray's very good at playing embarrassment in this film. He's not good at playing some other stuff, but he's so good at just playing the sort of like clueless, what the fuck is going on sort of expression. But that's a really fun like subversion.
Yeah,
basically.
And then, no, it's good.
But as you say, the present one, she could work, but she just doesn't the way they present her. I think she's too vapid as a character.
Yeah, and I think there's just some bits where I found some of it worked, and then some of it was just a little bit. Some comedies where it gets just a little bit much, but it's a little bit sort of cringy because it's like, well, that's kind of in my face. That's sort of what, especially Ghost of Present, where it's not even. Believable. I feel like what it is it's like it's obviously funny because obviously, as I said, it's directly whenever he comes back out of these experiences, it is directly parallel with the show they're making, which is the original text. And I'm reminded when because when he comes out of the present one, he sees the show where the Ghost of Christmas Present is saying goodbye to Scrooge, and he's like, you will now be visited by the final one. I'm sorry, Scrooge, but I have to go. And I'm just reminded of like how much better the original Ghost of Christmas Present was, because like I think that jolly jovial sort of side is like, I mean, he's supposed to be the core and heart of that story in the respect of like being kind to your fellow man and stuff like that. Whereas like she's kind of just mean, and like it's like the cat was kind of a cabby's thing in that like he's the one that plays sort of hijinks on him, and it like doesn't work because then you have like the Ghost of Christmas Future. He's just how he is in all the other stories. So it's like two of your ghosts are acting the same way in a respect in tormenting Bill Murray. Yeah. Like I guess it was like funny enough in the first scene, but it kind of outstayed its welcome as time went on. And her in general, like she should have just been way more wholesome. There's like a little bit where she's like they're playing the game and they're all like doing the guessing and stuff like that, and that was fun. But like again, it's just like the punchline to most of her jokes, even in that scene, is just like she punches Bill Murray. Yeah. And it's a little bit awkward when there's some bits like that where even they're trying to be funny, but it kind of ruins the like the whole, especially Bill Murray's supposed to be learning from, oh look, he's not spending time with his family or and it's like, but no, he's getting beaten up by a ghost at the moment. We'll come right back.
I think that was like part of why, like again, this is directly paralleled in the next film in that the moral lessons aren't really illustrated well to him until the end. And by that time, even at the end when he sees himself in the coffin and then he's in there, like that's a really cool image, but I just don't think he has the chops to pull off the emotions of that. And also, I just think it's not nearly as powerful as the more simplistic looking at your own gravestone that's covered in snow and it's just like been left to be decrepit and ruined, and it doesn't even have like the one thing I do like about Scrooged as a unique thing as well, because there are little bits, as I said, with like the cabbie that are unique in that the Tiny Tim character is treated a little differently in Scrooged. He ends up in a sort of like a sanatorium or whatever, like an insane asylum type mental health hospital with padded walls, because he just hasn't developed. He became sort of catatonic almost. He also seems that kid also seems to have like a weird sort of supernatural element to him, in that he can sort of detect and interpret how to what's going on, and also how to like he is like a sort of secret little genius, but because he's so shy and sort of lacks confidence, and also the fact that his dad was shot to death, there's a lot there that I do, and I do like that whole sort of dynamic, because it does bring the modern classism to the forefront, really.
Yeah, no, I did like what would be the equivalent of Scrooge's secretary today, and the whole sort of the modern day family and classes.
I like how she's not afraid to sort of talk back to him in a way. She is the voice of reason, really. I mean, so is Claire, played by Karen Allen, but and that is a weird that addition. I do like it because it is like sweet and sort of wholesome, and it does have some funny bits, but it does feel a bit like the original story kind of just focused on like. I don't know. I feel like it has a similar problem to like Groundhog Day, although Groundhog Day does it much better in that the sole sort of like, I guess the sole sort of element that draws him into being a good person is almost like he's going to be a good person so he can get the girl as a reward almost.
Yeah. And it is, especially even throughout, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna try and
he's always in pursuit of her.
Yeah, I'm trying to get.
The story,
I should get back together with my that girl, and it's like, but that's not the point though. And he's still being a bit of an ass when he should be.
Again, there's a good payoff to that in some respects, but I do think the future stuff is actually quite good.
Yeah.
In that they also pay off her character, in that she becomes a horrible person in the future, which I did like. She becomes like a Cruella de Vil, and she's also kind of like sad and depressed.
Yeah.
But that was a good outcome that they showed.
Yeah, but there's just some bits, especially in the middle, where it's not quite, it doesn't quite fit. Like even at the homeless shelter bit's a bit awkward for me. Where I don't know.
Yeah, I do like. Again, it's like I think some of the setup is weak, but some of the payoff is quite good, because I do like the payoff of that guy in the sewer, sort of frozen to death. Yeah. That's quite. Because I actually do think he does actually. I think Bill Murray does sell that one quite a bit, because he's more just frustrated and angry with him and himself. So there's bits like that, but yeah, there are just. I think you are right in that. I think it does have a bit of middle of the movie problem. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think that it is funny when it needs to be. It's definitely not the funniest film I've ever seen, and I think as a comedy, it could have done with being a bit funnier. I think the beginning and the end of it is really good. Like, I think the beginning is really funny.
Yeah.
Like Bill Murray opening is the first thing he does in the film is he opens his drawer and looks into his desk, and there's a mirror of him looking back at himself, and he's like oogling with himself, and he closes the drawer and he's like back to uber serious. It's like Bill Murray can definitely sell being an asshole, and I think that might be down to maybe it being a bit more less acting. I don't know. I don't. That's the thing.
I was going to say there are bits in the film where it's like that's just Bill Murray being funny and careless. Basically, he's just like, I do what I want. I'm gonna be funny. That's kind of how I think
a lot of that might be a problem as well for like the jokes that don't work. I think some of those are just improv stuff that he did that just didn't work. Whereas a lot of it, there's a lot. I think the fairy princess present ghost is a part of this problem in that there's kind of an over reliance on physical comedy, and I think that's why I probably found it funnier as a child.
Yeah,
when it should really affect me more as an adult with the kind of tone and all of the stuff that's in it. Yet the other film I think affected me way more, even though it was it's directed at kids way more in the other film. But I would also like to mention that Bill Murray's acting in that scene when he's going to the homeless center. He's really bad on the follow up to that. When he gets in there, he's really good, but him trying to sort of sell desperation, he's really bad at it.
Yeah.
That was something I thought was really jarring when I came to rewatching it. Just how it's like when he's faking being in despair in other films, and it's like it works because that's the character. He's just always sarcastic. It's like in the face of like a god in Ghostbusters, Venkman is just like still making one-liners because that's who he is. It's like how he deals with stress and that. So you kind of get that because it was a part that was written for Bill Murray perfectly, but. I just think that he's not good at selling, like, despair. He's good at selling everything else, but,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, I enjoy a little bit of Bill Murray, but sometimes, especially the films that are just him, sometimes he might be a bit much for me. Like,
yeah, I think with Ghostbusters you do have that.
Yeah,
I think
there's
you're right.
other
in that you have
things
those other cast members. Like you have Harold Ramis doing Spengler, and he's just
Yeah.
remarkable. You have Dan Aykroyd doing
Mhm.
Ray, and he's sort of the occult nerdy one. Sort of like, you know, he's. And obviously that's Dan. There's a lot of Dan Aykroyd in that part as well. Real Dan Aykroyd. And yeah, even in I think in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray does sell that despair a bit better because it's more understated. Like he's not just going, "Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like telling you. He's like he's feeling it, and you can tell because he's constantly like. There's a montage of him killing himself and stuff like that in that film. It's like that. That's another thing I like about Bill Murray's films. Sometimes is that they're super messed up. But yeah, this one kind of felt like it pulled its punches a little.
But it was an alright one. It was an interesting one. Something a little bit different from what I'd seen before. So, but yeah.
Well, would you like to introduce our next film, Joe?
Yeah, from one Scrooge to another. A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Classic.
Yeah, I feel like this is a film that we both love.
Yeah, and I think this one's it's definitely one of the more popular ones of the Christmassy. Yeah, because I think Scrooged with Bill Murray is a little bit more. I hadn't really heard of it as much before. Whereas...
Well, I think that it's because it only does the runs on actual live TV. Nobody really watches it in any other capacity. I think it's just like because I literally when I was coming back here today because I was away for a bit. I was on the television, just live television. And it was a rerun because that's how it works with that film and a lot of films is that it's like it's not really a film you can sell people on like Muppet's Christmas Carol or like Home Alone or something like big name stuff.
Muppet's Christmas Carol though, this one. I mean, I've had a copy of it in the house for as long as I've lived. I think it's a film I've known for a long time.
Well, it came out in 1992. Like
Yep.
It feels like it just came out is the other weird thing. It feels like it hasn't aged in a way.
No, I mean the only thing you can tell is it's got a mid-aged Michael Caine in there.
That is one thing.
So he's looking a bit more spry, even if he is playing. It's interesting. Obviously, you know we've seen him now, and he's getting a little bit older, but he's playing a Scrooge who's meant to be a sort of, in most portrayals he's like a stiff character, isn't he? But
yeah, he's kind of devoid of any personality, whereas I think Kane kind of brings a little bit of sort of frustrated energy to it that is so like in a charisma sort of sense likable, even though he's an unlikable character.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got a bunch of Muppets in there as well.
I mean, that is the flavour.
Yeah.
It's the big old twist is that, I mean, we don't even really need to talk about the plot because, again, you
can't. Christmas
once
Carol,
you've talked about one, you've talked about them all.
But probably one of the better, if not one of the best versions of it as well.
I was going to say, I'd argue that this is the definitive, adaptation of this story in a way, because I just think that it's so well executed, and I think that's down to not just the actual acting and storytelling, but obviously all the other stuff. But I was surprised rewatching it about how much good filmmaking there was just in general.
No, I was having a little look at it earlier, and I was like, even just I was like, oh, that shot's really good. And we're talking, these are Muppets, and it's like the framing is on point.
I suppose when you're working with something where you have to keep the lower part of it out of the frame completely, then you kind of have to focus on what's in there so much more.
Yeah, they get a little bit innovative with it. And again, obviously you're going between, you got, again, Muppets talking with real humans as well. It merges two worlds. And and like the height proportions are all done fantastic. That was the thing in every Muppet film, like in the 90s, that they did fantastically. It was just like keeping perspective in that. Obviously, the way that they are filming these scenes, a lot of the time,
there's a guy underneath the like puppeting. But sometimes I think they manage to do like string work from above and stuff. But it's still incredibly impressive what they were able to. I mean, to be fair, a lot of it might also be down to like Peter Jackson-esque, like weird perspective of like maybe they're a bit like maybe the camera is at a certain angle where it looks like it's flat. But really, the set is at an angle as well to sort of give that illusion. Because, to be fair, it does have a very Tim Burton warped perspective to a lot of the buildings, which also gives it a really nice sort of... I think that Tim Burton look it's not like overstated like in Tim Burton films, but I think that warped proportion does give it a sort of fairy tale quality that I really like.
Yeah. And, yeah, there's just so many... There's a lot of iconic stuff in this as well, though. Like, even with the three ghosts in this are done really well.
Oh yeah, I think that the Ghost of Christmas Present really is the highlight in that he's just such. I mean, I think when I was talking about earlier, when we were talking about the fairy princess one, and how it then skips from her when he's done with that experience to then the actual production of Scrooge. I was just thinking of this is the definitive version of Christmas Present for me, whereas I feel like the cabbie from Scrooge does kind of take Christmas Past for me, because this one's quite boring, obviously, because it is being directly adapted from the book, so the sort of child embodied spirit, although it's a cool image, I think that one was kind of lame. But Michael Caine obviously carries the movie on his shoulders. His acting's fantastic. Yep. But I love how Ghost of Christmas Future looks in this film. He's the most menacing, I think, out of all of them.
And
although I do love how in Scrooged he has a TV for a face. Yeah,
it's interesting, but I prefer the more almost realistic.
He kind of looks like a ring wraith in this film.
Yeah.
And they're not using the goofy skeleton arms, they're just using a guy with like really good sort of makeup and prosthetics to sort of make his fingers look bony. It's not like the best in the world, but it does the job. But yeah, I mean that entire ending section with Michael Caine, just like selling his despair at like seeing how his life turned out and how Tiny Tim's life turned out. And I love that sort of. I love the Cratchit stuff.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Kermit and Piggy and
yeah. I mean, this is the thing, is that like all of the Muppet films, I feel the Muppets are just always great in them as well.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is that there's so many great creative character designs and actual Muppets and puppeteering. And then just the acting and expressions from the fucking Muppets is like. I feel it, it's great.
No, I love
it. Makes me laugh. It makes me cry.
And obviously, you've got the main story with, Scrooge and, Crockett and his family. But even just the Muppets one is narrated by the Rat and Gonzo, right?
Well, Gonzo's playing Charles Dickens, and Rizzo is playing his sidekick, who's playing himself. So Rizzo's just Rizzo. But yeah, I love.
Those two
it does kind of pull. It does pull you out of the movie a little bit, and when you start to think about it. But this is as a kid, you don't care. But when Gonzo's like using the grapple hook to hook onto Michael Caine's feet, and they fly away, that's a great sequence. But yeah, when they land and then the cat is like attacking them, I did think like, well, hang on a second, they should be intangible right now, just like Scrooge, because he doesn't interact with the world.
Yeah,
neither does the ghost, but they do.
I really enjoy their narration as if it were a story. But also, they just add a fun bit of comedy in between as well.
Oh yeah,
it's really good.
And then when they don't need to be in the film because it needs to be dark, they're out of the film. Like they even say, we'll be back at the climax because this is too dark. And it's like, it's fantastic. Yeah, their comedy is like, it's definitely something more aimed at children. But as an adult,
I can enjoy
still
it
find.
To this day.
Yeah, I think that's one thing in that. If I was going to say something against Scrooged that obviously is for this film, is that this film has aged in terms of its comedy. Again, it's filmmaking and design and all that, and Michael Caine's looks. Obviously, that's dated in a way, but I feel like the reason I say that it feels like it came out yesterday is that the way that it was, the actual filmmaking and editing and the soundtrack and the performances and the how well all of the Muppets are integrated as well.
Yeah.
it does just feel so like timeless in a way.
And all the music, yes, again, the music. There's a lot of really good.
Well, this is a difference with the last film. Is the last film had like comedy as its main gimmick, whereas in this film, it's just a straight up like musical. It doesn't have tons of numbers in it, but it has a few. Like I think it's got like 6 or 7.
Yeah, and I mean the ones that are in there are really good. So
well, there's one I do take issue with, and that's the first one. Because all it does is it just tells the audience that Scrooge is a nasty man and he's very
I still find
angry and upset.
It's very catchy though. I do quite
the
like
tune
it.
might be, but I think the lyrics are very they're not even on the nose. They're just like plopped on your face.
It's definitely not a necessary song, but to bring us into the musical. I think it is like. It kind of establishes what we're going for, but it could be better.
I don't think it necessarily takes away from the film as a whole, but I do, and this is the reason I think it was so egregious for me, is that right after this, we have a 5 to 10 minute scene of Scrooge being a dickhead, like being a complete asshole to his staff and his nephew and the charity company. Like you don't need to be told because you're shown. And obviously, I assume that was probably in there for, like, maybe the really young audiences and also to give it some flavour. But I just put it this way, the tune is good, but and, like, the chorus itself you could definitely have. But I felt like it was just, like, the lyrics were just so crap for me. Whereas all the other films, they're, like, so well done. Like, I love the, we're Marley and Marley. Like, that's such a great... I think that's my favourite number of the film. Maybe the Ghost of Christmas Present song is maybe the top spot for that, because it was so good that they even knew. They put it over the credits.
Yeah. I mean, again, I enjoy all the musical numbers in this one.
But yeah, I mean, as you say, it's just it's a fantastic balancing act, and then it's like you have the acting, you have the puppetry, the directing. I mean, there was a shot I noticed this time where it's a gag, it's just a joke, and it's one of those Gonzo Rizzo jokes where they can't see in the window into Scrooge's house, so Gonzo picks up Rizzo. And it's evidently just like one of the puppeteers wearing a Gonzo arm underneath the sort of doll because obviously the window is. It's obscured with dirt, so I was also watching a bit of The Naked Gun earlier today, and there's a joke in that where the main villain is like rough handling the main lead female, the love interest, up the stairs of the baseball game, and they switch to like a blow up doll as like a joke from behind as he's like shaking her about. And obviously in this, Gonzo picks up Rizzo and then uses him as a rag to wipe open the window, and the sound design and the angle, and then there's camera after that zooms in, and it's this really sort of, as you said, cinematic shot that's just like it feels so artful. And I think like little bits like that do like bring back people like us who obviously have that filmic eye, and even just for people who might just subconsciously notice things like that, it just the story moves ahead so smoothly, and
I think it really does portray. Not even obviously you've got the narration there, but even in just the filmmaking, it is very like this is a story, but also one that you do get enthralled in, so you can get sucked into the world, but you also know that it is very. This is still like a Christmas tale. It's not a real...
It's got like magic to it in a way. I mean, obviously because of the ghosts and that, but it does just... I think you were right in that it's a classic.
Yeah, it's not... Again, it's just... It's a good film.
It's like what we were saying at the end of the Matrix review. Like it's just like it's just good, and you should watch it. Basically. Yeah. Forgetting our ratings or whatever, what we'll do later on, is like just watch it. If that's the only takeaway you have from this video, go watch.
I'm
the
sure
Muppet Christmas Carol.
Most people already have. It is one that is quite well known, but
but if you haven't, get that on your list for Christmas to watch. It is a delight. I would ask a question, Joe. Do you like this more than Muppet Treasure Island?
I haven't seen Muppets Treasure Island.
Oh, that's sacrilegious. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no.
crucify you for that. No, it's great. Yeah, I mean, most of the '90s Muppet films were. I think really it was the 2000s and the 2010s when I started to just completely check out. But yeah, there were some really good ones. I remember there was the one where like it turned out Gonzo was an alien and they had to sort of go. It was almost like a Men in Black type situation.
I've heard of that one.
I can't remember it for the life of me, really, because I only saw it like I've only seen it like 3 times, like in pieces over my life. But I need to watch that because I remember really loving the premise of that. I've seen the ending; it's like an ET sort of parody. But yeah, there's Treasure Island. There's this they hit banger after banger and they also had like the original like Muppet films that they did as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think A Muppet's Christmas Carol is what got me into Muppets. So
yeah, did you ever watch any of the show?
I watched. I had some of it on VHS. Not much, but I did. It was Muppet's Christmas Carol, and some of the episodes was the actual show.
I was very, very lucky in that we had an abundance in the family. Not in my specific family, but in like extended family, we had like an abundance of both DVD copies and VHS when VHS was more of a thing when we were younger. But yeah, so I grew up on the Muppet Show basically. One of my favorite episodes, I think, was some of the sort of Star Wars tie-ins they had. I think they got Mark Hamill on the show at one point, and he was playing like a sort of Luke Skywalker sort of. He might have even been playing Luke Skywalker in that, but it was there was a lot of wholesome moments and a lot of like really fun stuff in that show. A lot of good comedy and music. I think is something that was obviously intrinsical to the Muppets because there were a lot of musical numbers in the show as well. It's like obviously like there's the Swedish chef who makes a brief appearance in this film is the briefest. He's only in it for one scene.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. They fit the characters in their most convenient spots. Like they pick Muppets that fit the characters quite well. So
yeah, in the other films, apart from Treasure Island, I suppose, but the more normal films, they do obviously make them more main characters. But because they're fulfilling roles in this story, Michael Caine is basically the main character, with Gonzo and Rizzo basically being his second leads.
Yeah.
And then Kermit, who's the front runner of the entire series, is kind of in the background as a side character. Yeah. And same with Miss Piggy. But again, like as you say, they're relegated to roles that they fit, and they're not they're not overused. They may be a little underused, but that's because they're meant to be. So, and they work perfectly when they are in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the beginning when Michael Caine's sort of berating. I call him Michael Caine because whenever he's a Scrooge, Michael Caine playing him is berating his staff of like rats and Kermit the Frog. And he's berating them about like the coal use and stuff like that, and like the bonuses and getting Christmas off, and it's all great. And that's also one thing I really like about this adaptation is that sort of there is a glimmer of good in Scrooge from that shows that he can change, in that he does give them the day off. Even though he's like just get out of it after it. It's like it's like a small little gesture that's like it's very nice.
Yeah, he is human, so.
Yeah, that might be something that is in all of the other ones. I can't remember for the life of me. I
but
only care about this one and Scrooged, really. So
they're all the mix. So, but this one is a good one.
But yeah, I feel like before this film came out, though, if you had pitched this, I mean, maybe somebody would have been like, "Yeah, sure, it'll work." But if maybe you've never heard of the Muppets before, and you said, "Yeah, if we were gonna have like tons of like fluffy puppets that are varying, like animals and like weird, like colourful purple skinned people and all this.
And then we're going to have Michael Caine.
In this adaptation, and we're going to have Michael Caine in this adaptation of A Christmas Carol. It's also a musical. I don't think a lot of people would have said, that's going to be good.
No, but I don't know. It is.
But yeah, no, it's that's the Muppets for you. I think it is, until the 2010s, it was a stamp of quality, really.
Yeah,
I don't know. I remember liking the original 2010 whenever it was 2011 like Muppet movie with Jason Segel or whatever in it. I liked it. I definitely didn't love it, but I could not stand the sequel. It was It was atrocious. But yeah, that's the Muppet Christmas Carol, you know? It's a film you can't refuse.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the mystery element of the show now, is that, well, I guess we'll have to be quite brief on these, but these are our Secret Santa sort of 2MoreTakes picks of Christmas films that neither one of us know about. Well, sorry, yeah, they're completely, none of us know. No, Joe doesn't know his. I don't know, might know. One of us knows our own. The other one does not. If you do me the honour, Joe, I'd like to go first and tell you mine, because it actually does have a connection with one film we've already talked about today.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if you know this, Joe, but I mentioned earlier. So I didn't mention, by the way, that Brian Henson directed. So that's Jim Henson's son, because Jim Henson died, I think, just before this. Or Brian Henson, his son, directed The Muppets Christmas Carol. But do you know who directed Scrooged?
No, I think you mentioned it.
So I did mention it, but I wondered if you'd pick up on it, because if you knew who this guy was and you were quite familiar with his work, you might have been able to guess what I've picked here today. In fact, I said this while we were talking about it a while ago. I said, "Oh my god, I found a connection between one of my films and one of the others," and I didn't tell you what it was, obviously. The director is Richard Donner, who also directed the film that I have to talk about. Are you familiar with Richard Donner at all?
It doesn't really ring a bell, to be honest.
It didn't ring a bell for me until I rewatched the film Lethal Weapon, Joe.
Lethal Weapon?
That I discovered when I was rewatching it is set at Christmas. That is my film that I'm bringing towards this. Fuck the Die Hard shit. I'm bringing Lethal Weapon to the fucking table, motherfuckers.
Did Lethal Weapon come out before?
Directed by Richard Donner.
Or after Die Hard?
Sorry?
Lethal Weapon before or after?
He did it... so I believe he did Lethal Weapon before. So I think it was just before, and that was Lethal Weapon 1.
Yeah.
I do have it here, so I'll have a look. Lethal Weapon... Okay, yeah, so it's the year before, just 1 year before Die Hard.
Yeah.
So that's Lethal Weapon 1. It was 1987. But yeah, so it was literally the year before, and then obviously that was Die Hard. So same year and same writer as Predator, because obviously Shane Black wrote all the Lethal Weapon films. So there is a big connection there. There's
coming together.
Little webs. It's all coming together. But yeah, and also when I was rewatching Scrooged, and I realized that there were so many cast members from Lethal Weapon popping up. Because you know the blonde sort of corporate lady who's in the meeting with the rest of them, and sort of is having a bit of a sort of flirtatious behaviour with Bill Murray.
A little bit, yeah.
She's the one that says, "The old woman died, Frankie."
Yeah,
Frank or whatever.
yeah.
She's the therapist from the Lethal Weapon films. There was another guy as well, but the other one that was mainly notable was at the end of the film in Scrooge, the operator in the booth was the fucking captain of Riggs and Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon films. So there's so many like Richard Donner staples that were in that film, and I just never knew for the longest amount of time.
No, I wouldn't have noticed.
It never clicked. And also, you'd be hard pressed to know that either, because not just did Shane Black write the script for both this film and Predator, which were released in the same year. The year after this, Richard Donner released Scrooged. So these guys were busy during this time.
Yeah.
This was a busy time. But yeah, Lethal Weapon, Joe. I assume you've seen that one before.
I have indeed.
What do you think of it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've never.
Are you familiar with the? Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you familiar with the sequels at all?
So I've seen a few of them. I can't.
Yeah.
It's another one where I've watched them and I can't remember which one is which. I know the first one.
They all mesh together.
But
it's almost like watching Lord of the Rings. It's like it's kind of one continuous story, but they all mesh together. Yeah, so I was rewatching the Lethal Weapon films recently, and so there's I believe there's only 4 of them, but there was the 4 classic ones basically. And all of them are really good, with the exception of 3 and 4 being a bit of a drop-off in quality. But it's, like, only minor. There's, like, the opening to 3 is kind of lame. Some bits of 4 are a bit lame because they're a bit older, so Mel Gibson can't do as much wild shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second one is like arguably better than the first one. I love both. But the first one it's very, like...
It's quite iconic, a lot of those scenes.
Oh, yeah.
I can think of many
It's basically the most popular, like, beginning to the buddy cop film, basically. It made that genre what it is. I think when people think of the buddy cop film, they think of Lethal Weapon. And yeah, so it's the story of Martin Riggs, played by Mel Gibson, and also the story of Roger Murtaugh, played by Danny Glover. And these two, they form the pair, the partners. Riggs is the super sort of loose and sort of careless one. Murtaugh's the sort of like by the book, sort of, like I'm too old for this shit is the line of the franchise. But even then, he's not like a rules lawyer or anything. Like he's willing to break the book if it helps. But when he breaks the rules, that shit's gotten real. Basically, he's usually the one trying to mitigate damage, whereas Riggs is the one who's getting into trouble. Basically, but in the first film, there's so many. I mean, the script is just great. In all of these films, the characters and the chemistry between the two leads are just what sell it, basically. But in this film, it's fantastic. There's one of the first times we get introduced to Riggs. He's a sort of sniper shootout sort of situation, and all the cops are like taking like cover down these stairs, and he just walks up the stairs, like just walks up to where it is. The guy misses shooting at him, and then he just, with his handgun, shoots through this tiny little peek hole, killing the sniper, basically. And it illustrates to you that, first off, he doesn't give a damn about his life, and also he's an expert marksman.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there the whole bit where there's the guy trying to jump off a roof as well? Isn't there?
Another great example where, right after that is the scene where the two of them the two partners have their big old argument. But yeah, this Mel Gibson as Riggs is just great. Riggs is just nuts in this film because he has nothing to live for.
Yeah, no, and he's actually really good, especially the scenes where it's just him alone as well, in his caravan.
Oh yeah, well he has a bullet that it's like a hollow point that every night he considers blowing his own brains out. But he picks a hollow point bullet because he knows that the extra sort of stopping power will get the job done.
But it's that just watching him in that scene is quite, I could see.
It's harrowing, yeah. Because you learn that he's lost his wife. His wife's been killed. Because he was a cop, and that's something that's a mainstay throughout the entire franchise is his history. With love and all that, and that's something that they play on in the third and fourth films quite a bit. I mean, in the next film they also play on it a bit, but they double down on the we're going to kill his love interest thing. So. But yeah, and then you have Murtaugh, who's the family man. He's got his teenage daughter who's starting to become a woman, and he's paranoid about whether or not Riggs and her are getting too close, and Riggs is playing into it to sort of take the piss out of him. It's great. Yeah, it's there's so many great moments with his daughter, his eldest daughter, throughout some of the early films, and Riggs and Murtaugh and her interacting. Yeah. I think even into the third one. In the fourth one, she's kind of relegated to a pregnant lady. So it's but in the other ones, yeah, she's got her own sort of character and stuff. It's the villains are a bit sort of flat, I'd say, in these films, especially the first one. I don't know, the first and second one have some good villains, but the other two are kind of they're kind of flat, but they're interesting premises for villains. Yeah. But yeah, the first villain is basically just Gary Busey. And him and Mel Gibson having a rivalry of being both special forces. Yeah. And so yeah, and then there's great stuff like that, great subversions, like them both getting captured and tortured and stuff, which is also really horrible. You don't want to see these characters like lose, but there's a serious tension that one of them might get offed or whatever in that very first film. It's such a well built relationship, the two of them. And again, it's just like it's both the acting and also just the writing is just phenomenal from the two of them. The Lethal Weapon really is a joy, and it's just such a good action film as well.
Yeah,
there's so many great set pieces.
Yeah, the action, the fights it's pretty good in all regards. So.
And the detective stories themselves are interesting enough in the first two films. The third one maybe as well. I think the fourth one, it's like. The first one is like they go and see a guy, and then the guy gets killed after because there's somebody's daughter who was kind of like a prostitute. She kills herself or whatever. Then they go see this other guy who's like an ex-friend of Murtaugh, I think, and then he gets killed, and then that kind of just puts them on to where the bad guys are, and that's the story. In the second one, it's a bit more complicated, and the third one is tracing the roots of how guns are getting on the streets and stuff like that. So that's interesting enough. But yeah, the fourth one, it was kind of they bump into the bad guys in the one of the very first scenes after the intro. It's like they're literally just on Murtaugh's boat, and then the bad guys are just driving past them in a boat, and they hear gunfire and they get involved. But I guess we can't really talk about him too much. But also, Leo Getz is one of my favorite characters. Played by Joe Pesci in the second film going on.
Okay.
He's not great. He's not very good in the fourth one, but in the second and third one, he's hilarious. It's Joe Pesci doing a similar role to him as Harry from Home Alone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
No,
I think so. So would you? What were your sort of thoughts on it? I guess because I've kind of ranted on about it.
No, I love Lethal Weapon. The first one I do know quite well. The later ones, again, I get them mixed up, and I need to rewatch them all. But yeah, I also had forgotten that Lethal Weapon was set around Christmas.
Yeah, we've brought a new contentious offering for action films at Christmas to the table. So,
I don't think there's much more to say on Lethal Weapon, but yeah, it is. That's one that even you brought it up, and yeah, I know Lethal Weapon quite well, the first one. Again, the later ones, not too sure. But, the later ones aren't any of the others.
They all sort of blend together.
Yeah.
It is a pretty consistent franchise, and I don't think there's ever been a franchise like it where every one of the films is good at the very least.
Which ones are the other films that set at Christmas over Lethal Weapon? Are any of them Christmas other than the first one?
From what I can tell, no, it's just the first film.
Yeah, well.
So we can't talk about that real. I did go into it quite a bit,
fine.
But they don't count as Christmas films. The first one does, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Lethal Weapons, another classic. There's more to go into, but we got one more.
Oh, we can save an entire video for that, or we can cover them in action segments.
Yeah.
Because the second one definitely needs a video.
Right. Well,
give it to me, Joe. What's our final film?
So, I'm gonna hit some areas we haven't reached yet. It's a big stretch while I prepare myself. Because I thought I'd have to argue more, but actually thinking about it, if Lethal Weapon is your pick, then yeah, my one, if you think about it, is definitely a Christmas film. If you think Lethal Weapon...
Well, it depends if I've seen it, to be fair.
Oh, no, I know. But if you think... This is the thing. I don't think I'd necessarily still classify Lethal Weapon as a Christmas film, but I'll allow it as a pick just to talk about. It's got Christmas
I
in
do
there.
though, because similar to Die Hard, it takes place at Christmas, and there's Christmas iconography actually more in Lethal Weapon. So I'd say it's just more of a Christmas film than Die Hard.
I've forgotten all the imagery for the Christmas in Lethal Weapon though, whereas Die Hard's always, everyone's like, oh, Die Hard, is it or is it not? But
we also that one's rewatched quite a lot, and I think obviously last year we rewatched it. So
my pick, we're going to areas we haven't been before. It's a Disney film.
Well, Muppets is actually a Disney film.
Yeah, but Muppets aren't. They're not the same.
A different brand.
Yeah, Muppets are separate in my eyes.
All right, rip off the Band-Aid. What you got?
Lady and the Tramp.
Okay, now this is a bad one for me because I have not seen this film for years.
No, that's fine.
So I can neither confirm nor deny this. Really.
No, I know. I wasn't sure if you'd seen it any time recently, and I was like, maybe he hasn't. But I had to bring it up because a few years ago I watched it at Christmas because I was like, isn't Lady and the Tramp set around Christmas? And Lady and the Tramp does start and finish at Christmas. The dog, so obviously if you don't, I'll go through, how much do you know of Lady and the Tramp, Jack?
We are Siamese, if
there
you
are
please.
The cats, yeah. But basically, there's not much, the plot is just about...
I mean, it's basically just like, it's almost like a Romeo and Juliet type thing. It's just like classes, isn't it?
A little, a little bit.
Because obviously the lady is the fancy dog, and the tramp is the sort of mutt who's quite
There's the love interest bit. That's the main bit, but there's also the bit of it's Lady having trouble with her owners aren't. So it starts off Christmas, and I saw a really funny meme where they're like, "Oh, what did I I think they were questioning, because Disney's questioning everything at the moment, but it's the whole idea of basically the mum character gets gifted as a husband and wife. Husband gifts his wife a dog for Christmas. They put it in a box and wrap it up, and they open a box with a dog in it, and it's like,
oh yeah, that's a thing that's like very prevalent in like old kids films.
Yeah.
Is that it's the dog is in a box thing. It's like I'm guessing, like, I don't know what you'd do for that now if you were going to like be like, oh, I guess you, but like, I mean, obviously there's gonna be, but like it's like is the dog like sleeping when you put them in there, or are they like how does that happen?
I know it's a bit weird, but anyway, she gets a puppy for Christmas. A little lady. She calls her Lady. Which is a weird name for a dog, but but yeah, and basically it's her story of growing up, being cared for by her family, and then the mum gets pregnant, and then they stop paying attention to the dog and start paying attention to the baby, and it's the dog feels it gets a bit abandoned and
like left
bit bullied by like I think there's like an aunt that comes over with the two Siamese cats, and it's like
yes, and like there's the clash between them, and then obviously it's like we blame, it's like the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban situation, where I think like the weird aunt comes along, and she obviously is like really horrible to Harry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then obviously she meets this tramp dog when she escapes and goes for, she's like a house dog, and she goes on the street for a bit and discovers the tramp, and then there's a love interest thing, and then they both kind of have their ups and downs.
Yes, Dognall Tramp.
Huh?
Dognall Tramp. He was president, wasn't he?
But anyway, and then obviously it's the whole, they all get it together in the end, but there's a lot of conflict between characters, and it's like, oh, tramp dog, we don't like these stray dogs, and even the dogs and the humans don't like the tramp, and then the tramp doesn't like the relationships and stuff.
So it's like a culture clash, like classism type thing,
but they
all
all
similar to like the Romeo and Juliet thing, where it's like it's just different families or whatever.
But they all end up together in the end, and they let the tramp.
Obviously,
into their
there's
house.
the spaghetti scene. I remember.
So, yeah.
Oh, is that so? They actually let him in.
In the end of the film, once they all get everything is resolved, the tramp is brought in to the household as part of the family, along with they got the baby, Lady, and the tramp all together. They're all everyone's back on good terms. It's just obviously there is.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
In that this is Disney fairy tale stuff with that, but obviously when most people bring a second dog into their home, they kind of like view it under the sort of perspective of like those dogs are now siblings.
Yeah.
This could present some issues.
Well, they have kids at the end of the film, so.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the time leading up to that provides issues, but afterwards, like, oh, okay then.
No, it finishes at another Christmas where all of the characters are there, and they've all got
Full
kids,
circle.
and it's all happy.
Yeah, even the baby's got a kid, and that was a weird time.
No, the baby's grown up. It's like a year or two later, and the baby's grown up a
Yeah.
little bit. But
it's like a year time jump. Yeah.
yeah. The thing with this film, obviously, I just want to talk about it because it's quite an old Disney film as well. It's 50s, I'm pretty sure.
Was it?
Yeah, I will bring it up. Yeah, 1955.
Okay. When did just out of curiosity, when did Aristocrats come out? Sorry, Aristocats.
You keep doing Aristocrats. You need to.
Aristocats.
Yeah, Aristocats. I need to look
because
up...
Aristocats is a childhood favourite of mine.
Yeah, I like Aristocats too. It's a bit. I do love the old Disney films where the animals are the main characters.
Yeah, I think obviously you're a big fan of another film we'll be doing at some point.
Yeah.
I guess we won't talk about it here, but
but
I obviously you know the one I'm talking about. But
yeah, but there's even like Jungle Book as well, which is like I love all the old.
Yeah, Jungle Book was good.
Aristocats is 1970.
Oh, it came after.
Yeah, no,
that's a big surprise to me.
Lady and the Tramp is one of the earliest ones, isn't it?
Honestly,
hang on.
Jungle
Book is later.
Is it? I'm learning so much right now.
Jungle Book's very close to Lady and the Tramp. 1967, Jungle Book.
Okay, so it's in between then.
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Jungle Book's in. Yeah. Jungle Book's in between the two.
Well, yeah.
And then, because this thing, Lady and the Tramp, for how, I think it has some dated things in it, but actually,
well, the Siamese thing is about. I mean, it's similar to how we talked about cats and dogs. I just think, the Siamese cats did not get it good in the past. Now we don't really do that. So
no, but in general, for being what now? If 1955, it would be 50, 60, or
70.
Almost 70 years old. This film.
Yeah.
And Lady and the Tramp's always been one of my favourite Disney films, actually, when I think about it. I just always forget about it, but it has, like The Muppets Christmas Carol, it has many a good musical number in it. Many a good character.
I only really think of the main one, which is obviously the spaghetti meatballs.
See, that's the iconic scene, which also...
That's what I mean, yeah.
That's why you think this film is iconic for that scene alone. Obviously, that bit has been redone many times in other films, and the thing that upset me recently was the fact that they did remake Lady and the Tramp for a live action, CGI.
Wait, have they actually done that already?
Oh yeah, a year ago.
Is it in planning?
No, a year ago.
A year ago?
No, it might even be more than that. Lady and the Tramp.
Oh my god. Wait, did they Lion King it, where it's like, we'll do photorealistic...
Yeah, no, 2019. Lady and the Tramp.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I hate it. I understand. This one's probably, Disney remake everything now. And I'm like, okay, Lady and the Tramp is a really old film. But
the live action stuff makes mildly more sense. Like, but as in, like, what I mean, so the people ones. The people live action ones make more sense. The animal ones don't
really work. Like, even
Jungle Book kind of can work because it has that human character.
I've heard people say that the new Lion King is good as well. And I'm like, I still don't. I think don't want to watch it. But
I feel like those people are like. I mean, here's the thing: is that we could get into a whole talk about like how. Like, Disney are just completely tone deaf in the who the fuck wants to watch a photorealistic Lion King? Like, the technology is impressive, but you can't emote with a Lion King, for instance. I guess we need to save this for a different discussion.
But no, like
but
the
briefly,
CGI animals are not
but like
the same.
you when Simba's dad dies, that's how I'm calling him. I know he's got a name. I know what the name is, by the way, but I'm going to call him Simba's dad. When his dad dies, Simba's face is animated so perfectly in that scene. It's like there's human emotion that you can relate to because they're not working with the constraints of this has to be a realistic looking animal. Oh. And also, it means that there's a lot more fun that can be had in the whole experience. Like, Scar looking like a real lion doesn't benefit the story in the slightest.
I love obviously the late 20th century Disney era of just sort of cartoony but animated, hand drawn style animation, from everything from Snow White to Lion King era. That is prime sort of Disney style. The 2010s of them doing everything live action is just no.
So some of that animated stuff, like The Princess and the Frog, I did enjoy, but it was like all of it's been phoned in basically, with the exception of like Frozen. Really, that's like the only one where they were like, oh, let's be more liberal with it. I can't speak for the sequel, but apparently that's also quite good.
Anyway, bring it back to Lady and the Tramp. It does have the iconic scenes, the spaghetti scene, which does have the Bella Notte musical number. But the thing I love about Lady and the Tramp is it's actually quite a wholesome film. It's really heartfelt throughout. Like it has a lot of emotion in it. There's a lot of there's comedy, there's tragedy, as with many a Disney film, but it is done very well. And again, musical numbers throughout. There are other ones like the one where they're in the pound and they're singing about he's a tramp, but they love him. He's
a dude, she's a dude.
No,
we're all dudes.
Don't do it. You ruin it. Nothing. You've ruined the podcast. But no, Lady and the Tramp, and even I do love it, even if it's questionable. I do like the Siamese cats as a bit, partly. But yeah,
I'm gonna be real woke here and say I don't.
No, that's fine. But I mean, even that musical number is funny. I enjoy all the musical bits in this, and even side characters. Okay. I always think that there's the beaver that shows up at one point because they stumble across a zoo or a park in the middle. And
I remember there being more animals in it.
Yeah, there's a beaver character as well that he's got a really sort of classic sort of Disney feel to him. But he whistles through his teeth when he talks. Yeah. That sort of classic style.
Yeah.
But
I think some of the you're right in that some of the ones with the animals in really are sometimes the best ones. I do like some of the other ones, but I mean, you have like The Great Mouse Detective, for instance, which has such great designs to its characters and such great. I mean, I need to rewatch that film again because I used to love it as a child. There were a few Disney films that I got to see, and there were a few I didn't. Lady and the Tramp was one of the ones I didn't get to see that often as a kid, which is probably why I don't really remember too much about it. Whereas like ones like Beauty and the Beast, for instance, I saw a ton as a kid.
Yeah. No, I mean, but again, Beauty and the Beast is like 90s, isn't it? As well,
that's the thing, is it home video is the reason, basically.
I saw a lot of Disney films when I was little, but again, especially we're talking about Christmas films. There's not too many. I was trying to go for something,
I think 101 Dalmatians is set at Christmas as well, to be fair.
Possibly.
That one's... well, the first film definitely is. I think that is like a Christmassy film. Both of the live action and animated ones. By the way, I love all of those films, so I don't really care whether it's... I love the expression, and the artistic stuff of the original, animated one, but I also really like the live action ones.
Strangely enough, I watched the live action one more, so I'm not as familiar with the animated 101 Dalmatians, but I still, I like it. Again, old Disney films for the most part, they're all really good.
Yeah, but even like the older remakes are sometimes, but it's just the newer stuff is just like
they're going a little bit overboard with it at the moment. But again, Lady and the Tramp, I'd say, is a very wholesome film, and there's just even it's got Christmassy vibes. Especially, it starts and ends at Christmas, and it is just the passage of time of the lady growing up. Oh, I think it's over the course of a year, but And there's the love story, the tragedy, and all the side characters. There's the other dogs. Lady and the Tramp is a very good film, and especially for how old it is. I'm surprised every time, like 50, like mid-50s, that film came out. But it's still...
I think with the exception of Scrooged, I think that the three other films we've talked about kind of have the feeling of like they just feel so... Well, obviously, Lethal Weapon is very 80s and 90s, but aesthetically speaking, but it does feel very... It hasn't really... It doesn't feel irrelevant.
Yeah.
It does still feel quite relevant.
But yeah.
So I guess we'll get into... Unless you have anything else to say.
Films.
Let's rank them, yeah. So we'll go film by film, as per usual. We won't just do it all at once. So quickly, we'll just go to Scrooged. What did you think, Joe?
It was alright. Up and down, but I'd have to... Just going straight in with a rating. A number of value. Let's go with a 6.4.
Okay.
Maybe lower, but...
Yes, 6.4. Okay. Well, if you're happy with that rating, unless you want to put it lower or
6.3.
Okay, 6.3. It'll just drop a point one
liable to
each
change.
time.
Yeah. Right. How about you?
Yeah. For me, it's one that I really loved growing up, but I'm going to be honest. I think that it hasn't aged the best. It's not that it's a bad film by any means. I think it's good. It's just like, but I think especially in retrospect, stacking it up against the entire roster of the other stuff we have here, it's kind of like night and day. And I got to be honest that like, it's maybe even putting it at like a 7 feels weird for me. In that I definitely feel nostalgic about it that it would be at a 7, but. I don't know. I'll put it at a 7. I think it's really good, but it just has a few failings, especially in the middle of the film.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of this thing as well. There's not that many. When I think about Christmas films, there's a lot of them, but not that many actually really good ones. So for Scrooged, I'd say is good enough.
Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Yep.
This is you, Joe.
8.9.
8.9. Okay, we're just going straight in. Fair enough. Any other quantifications or qualifications?
Just good. I like a good bit of Michael Caine too.
Yeah. I thought you were about to say I just like good films, and it was gonna be like a jab at me. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I'll put it a bit higher, but I completely agree with it. Yeah, it's just a good film. You know what? Because I love it so much, I think it's definitely a solid 9 for me, at least.
Yeah.
You know what? Because it's Christmas, I'm gonna put it at 9.5. Because it's Christmas. If it's any other time of the year, it's just a 9.
Well, yeah.
Who's watched? 9.5.
Do you watch Muppet's Christmas Carol in July?
Hey, listen, man. I only watch Muppet Treasure Island when it's National Pirate Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have. It's a 9.5 from me. Lethal Weapon, Joe. Yeah, Lethal Weapon.
To be fair, 8.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah, it's a 9 from me. Yeah, it's just good as well, but it's like obviously it's very different from what we're talking about here today in terms of tone. It's not very wholesome, obviously. It is in a way. It's in its own way, but it's obviously a very violent film.
Yeah.
I love that it's set at Christmas. That's another thing that I can tell people who hate action movies being at Christmas a thing. Like I was anticipating bringing that one up and then getting an immediate response, but I'm happy that we've both been fairly receptive to each other's. But yeah, so you went with
8.
8. You just went with solid 8. I went with solid 9.
Yeah, I mean, it could go up and down. Again, it's because you brought it up, and I'm like, oh, I'd have to rewatch.
Well, the thing is, I haven't given you this. Yeah, it's like me with the next one. It's like we haven't really given each other the sort of time. To compare, so.
I still know Lethal Weapon more than you know Lady and the Tramp for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So,
but Lethal Weapon has never been one of my favorite films, but I've always really liked it, and it's been iconic as well. It's not been necessarily my top pick.
Okay. I'm going to kill you, but...
Okay.
Merry Christmas. Okay, Lady and the Tramp, what do you think?
Lady and the Tramp is a difficult one, actually. Because there's that part of me that's like, if you think about it in general, maybe it's a bit lower than I think it is, but I actually kind of want to give it a 9.
It's Christmas, Joe. It's wholesome, yeah.
Because again, it's a
Christmas.
wholesome film, and I can't, other than maybe one bit of possible racism.
I think it's racist. It's just like it can be like you can put it in that sort of charming. It's like they didn't really get it back then.
No, and it's just meant. It's not as focused on as it seems. It's a
scene. That's it.
Yeah, and even the whole film in general is wholesome, and it's like.
It's like, did we call Cats and Dogs racist? No.
But it's like
just a product of its time.
I'd compare it to, like, Ratatouille levels of film, but not. It's still 60 years before modern film, so it is lacking in some areas, but for the time that it came out, it is the Ratatouille of like the 50s. So it's because Ratatouille is a very good film, and it filmmaking wise has some very good stuff going on in it.
Yeah,
Lady and the Tramp's just 60 years prior, and is classic Disney. It's Disney Prime, you know. But I like
Disney Plus show.
No, it's Disney Prime.
I can respect that. The 9. I'm going to be honest, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be unfair of me to rate it at this time.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to do the bitch move, and I think I'm gonna have to actually go and rewatch it, and then if I've rewatched it in time of editing this video, I will submit my sort of score right here.
100.
But if not, then I'll just have to maybe address it at a later episode.
That's
but
right.
I don't feel comfortable just like
No.
plucking a number here, because for me this would truly be random. No rating for me right now, unless I have already just given it. I think I'm the first one to do that.
That's fine. I wasn't sure.
Unless you want to veto me and you just want to like give. Okay, yeah.
No, I wasn't sure if you'd seen it or not at all, and I was like, I hope Jack's seen it. He'll know.
Well, I assumed that you probably seen Lethal Weapon, but I was unsure in which case. I was gonna say I didn't know how familiar you might be with it though. So
no, I know Lethal Weapon, but I also know Lady and the Tramp, so I'm one up on you. So, but there are many films I don't know.
I was gonna say, like, if you want to play this dangerous game of like,
no, I don't.
We bring in films that the other one has never seen to sort of get easy points.
You've already mentioned many a film in prior.
Yeah,
pods, so.
I'm going to like I'm going to reach under the desk is all I'm saying, and pull out some of that stuff. Pull out some of those sweet niche films.
Right, that's been our Christmas films for the year.
Yes.
Some
probably
questionable,
been a bit of a lengthy one as well this time. We hope you enjoyed the Christmas episode, and if you're somebody who either likes or doesn't like Christmas, I think that regardless, the best thing that can make you feel better and the people that around you feel better is to just remember that during the holidays, a lot of people can be sort of lonely, and I think if you reach out to the ones you know, the ones that you love, and just tell them, you know what, I love you. And maybe it might make somebody's day. And I think that's the at least the core of Christmas. I think is that we can all be a little nicer to each other. And if there's anything you take away from this podcast, forgetting all of our like gobshite sort of film opinions or whatever, I think that the best thing you could do is just like spread that love and joy. So Joe,
festivities.
I hate you.
Okay. Merry Christmas, you bitch.
No. Joe, I love you.
No. No, I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's fun, man. No, I just think we end it on a wholesome note like that,
Until... until the next one.
We'll see you in the anniversary episode. That's going to come. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. You're gonna enjoy it.
Good.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.